Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm the Takunome, and welcome to my humble slice of the internet. That is, well, my Twitch and YouTube channels. How's everyone doing today? Hope that you're having a good day so far, maybe a nice, relaxing week, and if that hasn't been the case, well, maybe this reading stream could be a bit of a bright spot to your day. Now, for normal, oh, one moment, I hear something. That's not right. As you can see, we're still getting used to all of this here. But let's just remove that. There we go. Now I don't have voices playing in my ears. Now, people who are regular to the reading stream may have noticed, or to this channel on Twitch anyway, may have noticed that I mentioned YouTube as well. Well, this is perhaps the first time I am seriously streaming on YouTube. I've tried it in the past before and it's been kind of meh. Honestly, I prefer streaming on Twitch because I feel that it is more streamer friendly, but I want to give this a try. I found a service online called restream.io and it allows you to multi-stream to multiple platforms. So I'm seeing if this is something that's going to be, I suppose, a thing going forward in the future. But nevertheless, I do want to welcome everybody here, whether you are here in Twitch or you're watching the VOD on Twitch, or if you're watching the VOD or listening on YouTube. So everybody, welcome. Also, domo arigato to my Sparkle friend for subscribing. You subscribe to the channel? You live like right next door to me. Anyway, that said, I do appreciate all the support that this channel receives, whether it is follows or subscriptions and anything of that nature. And one moment, this interface for looking at chat is not very helpful. I see someone says AO, but I want to actually see this person's name. So we're going to change this appearance a little bit so I actually can see who this is. Average for disliker. Hello, welcome to the channel. Now, here's why I paused. I drive a Ford. That's why. I rather like my little Ford car, but I will also be one of the first people to tell you that my car, the Ford did not engineer it very well, but I do like my car. But nevertheless, I will not discriminate based on your name. Hello, welcome Average Ford Disliker. How are you doing today? Hope you're having a good day so far. My Sparkle friend said, I subscribed to Patrick earlier in the week and it felt weird to be subbed to him and not you. You know. I will say to my Sparkle friend, naturally, I not only do I support, but I appreciate all of the support that this channel receives. Again, this is a hobby of mine. I like the subscriptions. I'm pretty sure I could get more emotes if I had enough subscriptions. But honestly, that's not why we stream here on Twitch/YouTube now. We do it because we like to share moments with people. We like to, well, when I can, show off gameplay that I think is pretty cool whenever I pull it off, or show off gameplay that shows how silly I am. It's about building connections here. Let's see. My hatred stems from being a Ford mechanic. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, average Ford. Just like, okay, so I don't want to call you Ford because I can imagine you just saying ban this channel right away if I did that. I don't want to say disliker. So what if I say AF is AFD okay? Just use the acronym, the initials really, AFD. Or you can call me anything, I don't mind. I like to give people autonomy here, but we're going to go with AFD. Let's go with AFD for now. I'll go with initials. But tonight, everyone, we are reading, or we're going to continue reading, Clockwork Twist, Book 9, Home, by Emily Thompson. Now, for anyone who may be new to this stream, you may be asking yourself, who is Emily Thompson? I've never heard of this series before. Well, allow me the opportunity to read their profile to you, their bio even. Emily Thompson is a non binary author and artist originally from Northern California. Although they adore steampunk and all things Victoriana, they also write science fiction and fantasy. After studying film and animation in university, Emily changed to a Japanese language focus and studied in Tokyo. After receiving a language degree and spending a number of years abroad, they now live in Washington and spend most of their free time writing in coffee shops, painting, crocheting plushies, coding, and playing lots of cozy video games. And there you have it. And, oh, speaking of the author, Erudite, hello. Doesn't that make them a Ford expert disliked? A Ford expert disliked. Uh, Hmm. Well, now my brain hurts. I will leave that for AFD to answer because that is the name I'm giving to him, her. I don't know your pronouns. I don't know which ones. This is my first time meeting you, so I'm doing the best I can. But Erudite, also welcome to the reading stream. I hope you're having a good day so far. Gonna take a sip of water here. Mm. Before going forward, as always, we do a little bit of news for the channel. As I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I am streaming both to Twitch and YouTube. It is something I'm trying out, seeing how that works with the flow for preparation for the stream itself and afterwards. So far, I'm not a fan of preparing for both streams because the YouTube side, I feel, is not as granular when it comes to trying to give an idea of what the stream is. It feels very generic, whereas the Twitch side feels more personalized, in my opinion. So finding a way to prepare for the stream for both Twitch and YouTube that unfortunately will not involve OBS because the connection or the service that connects to OBS to make this possible does not really allow for personalization. So that's a little bit of news here. We're trying to see if we can do a stream to both Twitch and YouTube, and I think I will keep it just for the reading streams. Other news, tomorrow is Community Day on the Discord. Again, tomorrow, if you're not part of the Discord, you may not know this, but tomorrow we will actually start 2 hours earlier than we normally start in the past, and it is Variety Day. So, Mythical, we intend to, I'm hoping maybe we could play some Suicide Squad tomorrow with everybody, as well as Among Us. Other news going forward, a reminder, March 22nd, that weekend, there will not be a reading stream or a community day because I will not be available. Any other news? I believe that's all of the major news as far as this channel goes, as far as this stream is concerned. Double checking myself here. I believe so. I see a message from Ace. Don't let us down tomorrow, Taka. Ace, that is up to the PlayStation 5. In particular, my controller, but I think I have a way to guarantee that it actually gets a charge and not have weird shenanigans like last time. I was very upset about that last time. I believe that is everything. I believe we are ready to begin this reading stream here. Again, this is Clockwork Twist, Book 9, Home by Emily Thompson. We are currently on page 39. With that, let us begin. Twist checked his pocket watch, which Jonas had set for him when they left Atlantis, to find that it was growing close to midnight by the time he, Jonas, and Quay left the drinking den. The streets outside were somehow more busy now than they had been in daylight. Twist recalled the night he spent in Santiago, noting how similar this Caribbean town seemed to the other. Occasional gunshots, loud exclamations, and bouts of laughter peppered the rabble of the drunken crowds that spilled in and out of taverns and other unsavory establishments. Twist put his watch back into his waistcoat pocket and buttoned his frock coat over it protectively. Which end do you think they went to? Jonas asked. There's more than one? Twist asked in return. Well, Jonas said, at least Mira is easy to remember. I'm sure a Clockwork Girl would be simple enough to track down by asking around. You haven't sold that wind up toy yet? Quay asked. Twist shot a disgusted glare at the pirate. Nope, Jonas answered. Twist engaged to marry her. Quay laughed at this but stopped when Twist's eyes filled with indignation and icy rage. Just because you're coming along with us, Jonas said with measured patience, doesn't give you license to be a bastard. Don't insult Mira again. Quay crossed his arms, grumbling under his breath. So, Twist said, looking up and down the street, where shall we start? There's an inn just around the corner, Jonas said with a nod to the right. I've stayed there before. It's the closest one to where we were standing. If Mira had asked anyone where the nearest inn was, they would have directed her there. Seems as good a place as any to start, Twist said with a shrug. Jonas grabbed onto Quay's arm, leading him along while he and Twist headed for the indicated corner. Quay muttered a protest and shook Jonas's hand off, but he didn't overtly complain or make any motion to separate from them. Twist swallowed his desire to double check whether Jonas was certain that taking the pirate along with them was absolutely necessary. Since they'd met, Jonas had done 1,000 things that Twist hadn't understood at the time, but nothing he'd done had ever led them far astray. Twist forced his faith firmly onto Jonas rather than Quay, and his worries began to ebb. A small room met them on the ground floor of the inn, which was packed with tables and chairs. A handful of men and women sat at some of the tables, eating homely meals of soup, bread, and hunks of rough cheese. A woman in a colorful cotton dress moved between the tables with amazing ease, delivering 10 tankards and plates of food. The instant Twist and the others entered the tight warmth of the room, she called a friendly sounding but obviously well rehearsed greeting to them. Her accent fascinated Twist instantly, with its alien but sweeping curves and hollow vowels. Someone, Jonas responded. Have you seen a young woman made of copper? Everyone seated at the tables turned to look at him, their eyes appraising and curious. The proprietor stopped in her tracks, turning to look at Jonas for the first time. Yes, I have, she replied, curiosity appearing on her round and welcoming face. She and the other two are upstairs now. Are you the husband she spoke of? I'm not, but he is, Jonas responded with a gesture to Twist. The room's attention shifted to Twist sharply. Twist instantly wanted to retreat back through the front door, but Quay was standing in his way. You go right on up, the proprietor said with a wave to the narrow stairs against the right wall of the room. I'll give y'all all rooms 3 or 4, all right? Thank you, Twist said, moving quickly for the stairs. Jonas and Quay followed him up and out of sight of the patron's attention. The second floor was a winding and narrow hallway with closed doors placed sporadically on either side. Without the few tin lanterns hanging from the ceiling, it would have been impossible to see at all in the cramped space. Twist found a door marked with a 3 and heard voices inside. He knocked at it with a knuckle. Yes? Mira's voice called from the closed door. It's me, dear, Twist called back. The door opened instantly. Mira smiled brightly to Twist in obvious relief and ushered him inside with a waving hand. Come in, she said. I'm so glad you're all right. Her voice stopped abruptly as Quay followed Twist and Jonas across the threshold. Her smile fell away as well. She moved closer to Twist swiftly, clinging to his arm and watching the pirate with cold, judgmental azure jewel eyes. Her anxiety stung at Twist's sight, raising his heart rate. Kima had been sitting on one of the two small beds in the room with her son, but now rose to her feet as if she expected she might have to defend herself at a moment's notice. Hello, Princess, Quay said flatly. Mira looked at Jonas sharply. What's going on? He's coming along with us, Jonas answered, his tone calming. Oh, no, he's not, Mira snapped. Mira, Jonas began again. Twist, Mira asked, looking to him expectantly. He's in a bad way, Twist answered. Jonas feels we should help him. What do you feel? Mira asked, one silver eyebrow raised alarming warningly on her stern copper face. Twist paused for an instant, selecting his best reply. I trust Jonas. Mira's features shifted into clear disappointment, stinging at Twist's heart. If I were alone in this, Twist went on quickly, I leave him to kill himself however he likes. But I'm not. Jonas knows him better than I do. If he says that there's something worth saving in this cretin, and it's worth all the trouble of dealing with him, then I'll allow it. But that doesn't mean I trust Quay in the slightest. Touching? Quay droned Quay droned with a scowl. Shut up, Adair, Jonas said softly. You really care what the wind-up toy thinks? Quay asked flippantly. She's not even a real person. Mira barely had time to gasp at this insult before Jonas turned and threw a fist at Quay's face. Completely surprised by the attack, Quay fell back against the door frame, clutching at his cheek. I told you not to insult Mira, Jonas growled at Quay. If you can't keep your tongue, then get out. But it won't be my fault if you get left behind. Again. Mira looked at Jonas, wide-eyed in disbelief. Twist watched with his own alarm at this sudden change in his friend. While he was grateful for his loyalty to Mira, Jonas's response to Quay's ignorant comments seemed excessive. Quay glared back at Jonas, his back still leaning against the doorframe. I don't have to take this treatment from some arrogant little boy, Quay growled back. No, Jonas replied, his tone calm once again. You don't have to, but you will, and you will keep one ally if you want to keep one ally. Once again, Quay paused. He stared back at Jonas, struggling to hold on to his anger while it clearly began to slip away from his grasp. Twist suddenly understood why Jonas had struck him. Jonas was standing firm, balanced, and calm, while Quay appeared weak and crumpled against the wall. Looking at the two of them, it was obvious which one was in control of the situation, despite their age differences. Jonas was demanding the other man's respect, and in doing so, gaining power over him. He would need control over Quay if there was to be any true peace among them, at least until Quay began to act civilly on his own accord. Don't do that again, Quay said, his voice low but cold as he pushed himself back onto his feet, his natural height bringing him taller than Jonas with ease. Don't be rude, Jonas responded, unmoving. And for the record, Mira's just as real in feeling as you are. If you treat all of us with respect, or you will leave right now. Jonas' voice smoothed and softened, while his posture relaxed as well. The door is open, Adair. Make your choice. Twist shivered, hearing a gentleness appear in Jonah's voice near the end. Despite everything, his grabbing for power, his physical attack, and the harshness of his words, it was as clear as day to everyone in the room that Jonas was praying that Quay would stay. Twist could only marvel at his friend's self control and his skill in such a precarious situation. He was all but begging the pirate to stay, to stop being stubborn, and to become a better man. But if he said any of it directly, Quay's pride would surely make it impossible for him to accept. Quay remained silent for a moment, clearly struggling with his answer. His eyes roved over Jonas's face as if seeing something Twist didn't, hidden in his features. Finally, he gave a sigh and looked away. And I'm the dramatic one, Quay grumbled. To Twist's shock, he made no movement for the open doorway. Instead, he remained silently where he stood, as if simply deciding that he was finished conversing. Twist felt relief flood into the buzzing at his neck, but Jonas didn't appear to outwardly change at all. Instead, he turned around and looked to Kima. By the way, he said casually to her, this is Adair Quay. Adair, this is Kima, her son, Pamut. They're also coming with us. Quay glanced to Kima and Pamut, nodding the vaguest greeting possible. Pamut only watched Quay with silent curiosity. Kima looked at Jonas again, as if silently asking him if this was really such a good idea. I wouldn't have taken it this far if I wasn't sure, Jonas responded, somehow managing to hear her silent question without looking her in the eye. Trust me. Kima remained silent and thoughtful, but didn't voice a complaint. If anything, she seemed to relax. Twist could almost see her trust begin to build, brick by brick. It was simple enough to begin discussing who would sleep in each of the two rooms, and to avert the room's attention onto other things than the smoldering pirate's wounded pride and questionable character. Twist didn't miss the fact that Mira dropped her protest at Quay's presence, and he was infinitely grateful for it. It would be trouble enough to hold Quay in check without having to battle Mira on the point as well. It was decided that Mira, Kima, and Pamut would share one of the two rooms, while the men would share the other. One room only had two beds, but the other had three. Mira volunteered to sleep sitting up, giving Kima and Pamut the two beds in their own room, as her body didn't actually need to rest. It was, after all, only her mind that needed sleep. Her clockwork puppet would remain in exactly the same state no matter where or how she slept. The fatigue of the long day began to take its toll on them all before Twist's watch struck 1 in the morning. They each headed for rest, Quay leaving for the other room first, and Twist stole a moment to bid Mira good night with a kiss and a few gentle words. A moment later, Twist heard Kima's voice speak gently as Jonas left the room to follow him. Still in the hallway, Twist glanced back to find that she snatched a grip of Jonas's arm to hold him on the threshold a moment. Her face filled with gentle concern as she spoke softly that Twist couldn't quite catch her words. Fine, fine, Jonas answered her, patting at her hand on his arm. Thanks, but don't worry about me. Kima nodded, letting him go. She seemed to notice, with some surprise, that Twist was still there. If you say so, she said to Jonas with a slight smile. Sleep well. Jonas smiled back and nodded as well before she turned away and closed the door behind her. The two of them stood still in the hallway, and Jonas flashed Twist a smirk. What are you looking at, Dandy? Nothing, Twist muttered, hurrying on. Here we're going to take a quick chapter break. Let's see how's the tea doing here. It still feels very hot. Mm. But you know what? It is not that hot after all. It's actually a very good temperature right now for this tea. Mm. Once again, I do want to thank everyone for joining this reading stream, whether you're here live in chat or listening to this in the VOD. I forgot my words for a second, but I do appreciate all the support that you guys give this channel. And I hope that you're enjoying the story thus far, as well as the reading of this story. I might do a little bit of a stretch before I start up again. I feel like I said this to somebody not too long ago. When doing the reading stream, one never really realizes how much energy a reading stream can take from you until you do it for an hour and 30 minutes. It's just one of those things that popped into my mind. But with that said, and my misery and woe aside, we're going to go to the next chapter. Twist lay back on one of the three simple beds in the room he, Jonas, and Quay shared. His limbs felt instantly leaden and immobile, but his mind began to spin around the numerous confusions and events of the day. It was a while before he managed to gather his thoughts enough to realize that he was still wearing all of his clothes, his boots still on his feet as they hung lazily off the side of his bed. The thought of getting up to change felt unreasonable. The sounds of the still busy street seeped in from below through the closed window, the street lights spilling amber swaths across the ceiling above Twist. Quay had begun to snore mere moments after falling fully clothed into his own bed, but Jonas was silent. The buzzing in Twist's neck still felt as strong as it did when Jonas was awake, purring smooth, quiet, and bittersweet. Twist lifted his head just enough to look in the other man's direction and found Jonas sitting up in his bed in the dim light. He was leaning back against the headboard, gazing distantly out through the glass windows with dull green eyes. His boots were on the floor beside his bed, but he was still clothed as well. Twist watched him silently for a moment, drawing no attention at all to himself. Finally, the weight of his own head grew too much, and Twist dropped it back onto the bed, gazing up at the ceiling as Jonas's quiet spirit murmured in his neck. It felt like ages before Twist's own thoughts grew dull enough to let him close his eyes and begin to drift toward sleep. Seemingly an instant later, Twist was roused from a deep and dreamless sleep, so suddenly that he awoke dizzy and unsure where he was. Someone was shaking him, shouting frantically for him to wake. It took Twist a moment to realize it was Jonas. Twist took in a breath to respond but coughed instead as his throat filled with foul, stinking hot air. He sat up too swiftly, sending his head spinning. Come on! Jonas yelled, dragging him to his feet. Thick black smoke was pouring into the room from the thin crack under the closed door. Shouts and frightened screams echoed through the inn, along with a low and constant growl. The heat was intense and rising from below. As Twist got himself to his feet, he finally realized what was happening. The inn was in flames. While Jonas struggled to rouse Quay, Twist snatched up his walking stick. A flick of the switch on his cane brought the electric light in the hilt to life, spilling a much needed light into the thick, smoky air. The window opened, pouring shouts and frightened sounds in from the street outside, and Twist turned to see Jonas, a handkerchief tied over his nose and mouth, toss both of their travel bags out of the window as Quay coughed violently on the fumes that still filled the room. Mira! Twist shouted, rushing for the door. Wait! Jonas yelled, but Twist was moving too fast. The instant Twist opened the door, a cloud of noxious boiling smoke flooded into the room, so thick that he could no longer see anything before him. His eyes stung, his ears started to ring, and his breath only came in sporadic and inadequate gasps between his now relentless coughs. Jonas pulled him back from the doorway as Twist doubled over and feared he might faint. Darling? Mira's voice called through the smoke. Over here, Jonas called back. He had taken Twist's cane from his hand and now was waving it in the thick and terrible darkness. Come to the light. We can't get out this way. Clockwork hands fell on Twist's back and Mira's fright flooded into his sight. Her fear was so sharp, so hot, and so clear that it steadied Twist's chaotic thoughts somewhat and allowed him to focus on getting air into his lungs. Covering his face with the edge of his collar actually seemed to help. He could sense that there was movement around him. He thought he heard Kima's voice in the fray as well now. Jonas took hold of Twist's arm and hauled him to his feet. In all of his confusion and terror, Twist hardly noticed the usual white fog that met his sight at the touch, but Jonas's fear only doubled his own. Before Twist knew what was happening, Jonas had dragged him to the other side of the room and shoved him fully through the open window, out into open air. Twist screamed, flailing in animal panic to grab onto the windowsill from outside. The air around him suddenly cleared as well, showing him a huge crowd of people on the street, one floor below him, while his lighted cane fell to the ground with a clatter. While Twist struggled to hold on to the cracking wood of the windowsill by nothing but his fingers, he saw Mira's clockwork form fly over him as if she leaped out from the window. She landed below Twist in an inelegant heap. Let go, Twist! Jonas called from deep within the thick cloud of smoke that spewed out of the window. At exactly the same moment, he saw Pamut emerge, feet first, from the window as if someone in the smoke was luring him out onto the open air. With a startled cry, the boy suddenly dropped and landed on the ground with a thud. A few more travel bags flew out over Twist and into the street as Kima's feet now appeared beside him. She climbed out to drop down to the ground herself, and Quay followed in the same fashion only an instant later. Twist's fingers suddenly gave out on him, and he too fell to the ground. He landed mostly on his rear, without an ounce of dignity, but was surprised to find himself relatively all right despite the drop. Looking up from the ground, Twist now saw that the windows were fairly low. He might have only fallen a few feet once he let go. Mira took his arm, helping him quickly to his feet, only a moment before Jonas dropped down to nearly the same exact spot. Jonas collapsed into a ball but recovered quickly, springing back to his feet and pulling away the handkerchief that had been tied over his nose and mouth. A huge crowd surrounded them, and many people reached for them as if meaning to pull them safely away from the enormous heat of the flaming building. Seeing no escape from the sea of clawing fingers, Twist braced himself for the terror of the unwanted touch and all the pain, grief, and fear that would surely flood his sight any moment now. Arms wrapped over his shoulders, pushing him forcefully into the crowd, but his sight filled only with an empty, cold, frigid white fog. Realizing what was happening in a single instant, Twist struggled to match Jonas's speed as they both dove together into the crowd and then emerged quickly on the other side. It was only once he found himself safely in an empty space on the other side of the street that Twist realized Mira had led them through the crowd as well. Jonas released him, and Mira instantly wrapped Twist in her arms, her clockwork puppet trembling in her terror and relief boiling over Twist's dizzy mind. Twist held her tightly, struggling to get his breathing smooth now that most of the smoke had left his lungs. He heard Jonas's voice and Quay's as well, speaking to others behind him, promising they didn't need any help. Mira's emotions began to calm, letting Twist's mind clear somewhat. He glanced around to find that most of the crowd was throwing buckets of water at the fire that raged on the other side of the street and seemed to fill the whole of the inn. Quay, Kima, and Pamut stood close behind Twist, Mira, and Jonas. Kima held Pamut to her, and Pamut's arms were wrapped around her waist as they both watched the fire in horror. Here, Jonas said, handing Twist's walking stick to him. The light had been shut off, and Twist saw now that Quay and Jonas were carrying most of the luggage. What the hell happened? Twist asked, taking the walking stick but keeping one arm wrapped around Mira. He was alarmed to find his own voice dry and choked from the smoke. Speaking brought on another few coughs as well. Mira rubbed at his back soothingly. I don't know, Jonas responded, still coughing a bit as well. I was awake, but I didn't notice anything until I suddenly smelled the smoke. It was only an instant before it was everywhere. Quay's hand fell to Jonas's shoulder heavily. I didn't notice anything until you woke me. You saved my life, John. Jonas nodded to him, only stealing a moment to acknowledge the pirate's comment. Is everyone all right? He asked. The others confirmed that they were mostly unharmed, although the fall from the window seemed to have bruised him somewhat. Twist's pride kept him from complaining too badly, considering the part of his body that smarted. Mira confessed that her knee wasn't bending easily, and her hands felt stiff to her, but Twist's sight confirmed that the damage could all be easily repaired. To his great relief, none of her crystals had been fractured in the fall. Sorry about having to toss you out of a window, Twist, Jonas mentioned. Considering the alternative, I'm glad you did, Twist replied. A man hurried up to them with a bag clutched in his hand. Were you people inside? He asked them hurriedly. Are you injured? When they all confessed that they weren't badly hurt, he nodded and hurried off to another small group of people to one side. It was only then that Twist remembered that he and his friends weren't the only ones staying at the inn. Is there anyone else inside? He asked, peering over the crowd at the still flaming inn. If there is, someone else will have to save them, Jonas said grimly. Too much smoke in your lungs can kill you. We've all had too much already. Looking back at the inn, Twist saw a man drop from another window in the second story. Dazed by the entire event as he was, Twist could only stand and watch as the people filling the street fought the fire as best they could with endless buckets of water, handed one at a time along a line of men that stretched to the shore 1 block away. Here we're taking a chapter break here. I take another sip of tea. It's good tea. Now, wow. The tea that I'm drinking tonight is a classic, if you will, an old time favorite that is called the Clockmaker. This tea has been inspired by the series that we're reading now, and the ingredients is toasted green tea, orange peel, pine smoked black tea, rose petal, and aged black tea. This is perhaps my third favorite tea that I like to drink, especially during the reading stream. Apologies, I'm burping a little bit. But if you're asking yourself, why Taka? Where can I find such a delicious tea that you just mentioned on the stream? Well, my dear viewers, allow me the opportunity to tell you about a special little tea shop, a little tea shop that is dear to my heart and yours, called Friday Afternoon, the tea shop in Seattle, Washington. Guess what? It is time for the not sponsor, definitely not a sponsorship, but we're going to pretend like it's a sponsorship by Friday Afternoon. Now, for those who are regulars to this stream, you'll know that I do talk about Friday afternoon tea because, well, I just enjoy their tea and they do not pay me to do this. But if you go to their website, www.fridaytea.com, you will find a wide variety of teas that I'm pretty sure will tickle your fancies. In fact, this one tea I want to talk about tonight is called Strange Dreams. And this blend is part of the new Apothecary Medicinals. There's a whole collection you can check out, and apparently, this collection is delicious. But the description of this tea goes as follows. For lucid dream work witches and astral travelers, this blend of Central American and Western European herbal knowledge draws on the combined power of cacao and mugwort to aid in your journeying. The ingredients: cacao nib, linden, mugwort, lemon verbena, and lavender. Now, before I continue on with this tea, there is an asterisk that I should read out loud just in case, so that we're not peddling any false information here. As with all supplements, this is not meant to replace medical treatment or treat any particular disease. Please discuss please discuss your options with your doctor. An additional note on mugwort. While this herb is safe, legal, and not psychoactive, some people have a strong reaction and will find themselves in mental distress. If you're not sure of your body's reaction to mugwort, start with one lightly brewed cup and work your way up in strength until you reach your desired result. I thought it would be fair to just go ahead and read that just in case. And there is a review on the page for this tea. It is from a year that did not load, apparently. I'm going to guess. Why did it not load? I need to find out why parts of this webpage is not loading. However, it is a 5-star review and it says, Consistent dreams. I have been unable to dream consistently for years. This has now become a part of my nighttime routine, and I experience life in such a new way. Definitely not accustomed to the flavor of mugwort, but enjoy it nonetheless. And there you have it. Strange Dreams is the name of this tea. And again, you can find this tea at www.fridaytea.com. Again, www.friday, like the day, and tea, like the drink.com. Again, they do not pay me to do this. They do not give me free tea. They do not hold my cats Momo and Appa hostage. No, they do not believe in blackmailing me into doing this. I just do this because it's fun to do and I enjoy their teas. And I don't know if Lady Robsy is here in chat or not, but I do want to mention that I did ask them last week about shipping to South Africa. I have not heard back from them yet, but we will give it a moment. We'll see if they get back to me soon enough. If not, maybe I'll find some other way to ask to get a nice answer to this, or I'll actually take time to go through the website and find out. But again, Friday afternoon, the tea shop in Seattle, Washington. As far as I know, they do not know I do this, but maybe they will. And I'm not asking for sponsorship because I enjoy pretending that they don't sponsor me, but they kind of secretly low key sponsor me. And also insinuating that they hold my grandmother hostage. The next time my sister goes to South Africa, we can give her some tea to bring to Robsy. Perhaps? Perhaps. I don't know if your sister would be up to, well, maybe actually. Knowing what I know, maybe. We'll see about that. We'll see. Teehee. And once again, I do want to thank you all for joining this reading stream. And as I said before, I keep saying I support this. You are the guys who are supporting this, but I appreciate all of the support that you guys give this channel, whether it is likes or follows, subscriptions, bits, telling friends, turning on the channel and just leaving a lurk, watching the VOD. Again, I appreciate all this support. This is a hobby that I do. I don't expect to make a living off of it, but to know that, you know, there are people who actually appreciate, or I would say enjoy, the reading stream or this channel, well, it brings a certain smile to my face. So, thank you very much. As I take another sip of tea here. Mm. Also, I'm very much looking forward to sitting down again. My legs feel a little tired. Mm. Alrighty. With that, we are going to go into our next chapter. Twist, his companions, and all of the other survivors were eventually ushered away from the burning building to make more room for the firefighters. They all gathered at the shore under a dark sky that was now filled with the charcoal and silver clouds. Twist sat on the sand, looking up at the sky, and wondered if what he saw were really clouds at all, or just more of the smoke. Silence fell quickly over the survivors, leaving nothing but the murmurs of the city behind and the gentle waves before them. Twist's mind felt dull and heavy in the echoes of his terror and shock, unable to hold any thought for more than an instant. Mira, sitting beside Twist on the sand, moved as if uncomfortable. She reached out a hand to pull her foot into a better position, and her knee audibly creaked. Twist instantly offered to take a look at it for her, which she accepted. He plucked his travel bag from the small pile Jonas and Quay had left beside them and took his clock mending tools out of it. Twist then carefully revealed the inner workings of Mira's knee and managed to get things at least basically back into order. She held her skirts modestly around her bare knee and watched it in silent fascination while Twist worked. As he did, Twist's mind seemed to fit itself back into order as well. Has anyone got any other bits of clockwork that need attention? Twist asked, having finished with Mira's injury. Workaholic, Jonas muttered half-heartedly. Oh! Mira cried suddenly, startling them all. Twist found her looking down into the face of the necklace watch that Sky had given her, which sat in her hand. The long chain was not hanging around her neck as it usually was. Twist moved closer and peered at the little watch to find the cage locket like cover now bent inward, and the glass face of the watch splintered and cracked clear in half. The hands had stopped as well. I must have landed on it when I fell, Mira moaned pitifully. I wasn't wearing it around my neck because I take it off when I sleep, she went on, her words quick and her tone brimming with sorrow and regret. I always take it off like you do with your watch, dear, and I snatched it up by the chain when I realized there was a fire. And then when I jumped out of the window. Her words broke off suddenly as her metal face tried desperately to cry. There, my dear, Twist said, rushing to put his arms around her. It's all right. I'm sure I can fix it. Can you please? Mira asked desperately, clutching to his jacket with her free hand and staring up at his face with jewel eyes that should have been filled with tears. Of course I can, Twist said gently to her. Here, let me see it. What's with the watch? Quay asked Jonas quietly, while Twist gingerly took the broken little item from Mira. It was a gift from a good friend, Jonas answered, while Mira's attention was locked on to Twist. Twist stared at the broken face of the watch and let his sight seep deep into the clockwork. While the rook communication device hidden under the remarkably thin layer of clockwork continued to confuse Twist's understanding, the clockwork itself was as familiar to him as the London rain. In no time at all, he managed to pop off the broken glass front, had gotten into the workings, and set the clockwork to rights. Closing it all up again, he wound the knob and smiled as the pleasant ticking resumed and the hands began to move at their unhurried pace. There you are, my dear, Twist said, showing Mira his progress. All we need to do is get a new piece of glass for the front, and it'll be as good as new. Oh, thank you, darling, Mira gasped, overjoyed. She pulled him into a swift embrace and placed a cool kiss on his cheek as her joy sparkled over his sight. I told you it would be no trouble, Twist said, laughing lightly at her relief. He gently nudged the thin metal of the collapsed cage cover generally back into shape with his thumb. I'll need to give it a good going over later on, but I'm sure you won't notice the slightest difference once I'm done. Twist paused, frowning, as his sight flashed with a new issue deep inside the little watch. He looked down at it while Mira's apprehension chilled her happy emotions. Now that the clockwork was mended, Twist's sight could finally make some sense of the hidden technology beneath it. Although he couldn't quite grasp the strange nature of the rook communication device, nor determine exactly how it might be mended, his sight promised that it was, in fact, damaged as well. He touched the switch that flipped the watch face over to reveal the usual blue light within, but the subtle rain like sound that typically issued out as well was now silent. Twist waited a moment for the disembodied voice that normally spoke out of the light but heard nothing. Hello? He asked the light experimentally. Really? What's with that watch? Quay asked Jonas again. I told you, Jonas answered, his tone betraying nothing. It was a gift from her friend. While Quay scowled suspiciously at Jonas and the watch remained silent, Mira gave a tiny pained moan. It's not working? She asked Twist softly. I'll fix that too, Twist said, touching the switch to flip the watch face back over. He gave Mira a confident smile despite his own apprehension. Don't worry, my dear. As I said, I'll make it as good as new once I get some time to work on it with proper light and a clean work surface. Oh, yes, I'm sure you will, Mira said bravely, taking the watch back from him and slipping the chain over her head. She then placed another kiss on his cheek. Thank you, darling. You're simply wonderful. Twist smiled back at her praise, silently hopeful that he would be able to do exactly what he promised he would. We're going to take a quick chapter break here. Personally, I believe Twist will be able to fix this watch because that's what his sight allows him to do. For anyone who may be curious about what a sight is basically like a superpower in this world, but it is not the Superman type of superpower. It's more like an X-Men type of superpower. And Twist Sight allows him to mend anything that's broken. It allows him to see what is broken, and for machinery, he can fix it. People, on the other hand, well, that's a different story. And with that, I believe we are ready for our next chapter, and the author confirmed, yeah, Marvel, not DC. Good way of explaining it. Thank you. I do my best here. With that, let us go into our next chapter. All right, now really, Jonas said suddenly, breaking the eerie quiet that had fallen once Twist had mended all of the clockwork he could find among them. First, there's a fire in Atlantis, and now one here in the inn we're staying at. Are we cursed or something? Atlantis, Quay asked with a disbelieving scowl. Long story, Jonas said with a shake of his head. Pumut gasped in startled terror, drawing everyone's attention to him. Kima moved to comfort him instantly. What's wrong? She asked him gently. The summer fae, he said, his voice ringing with fright and his dark eyes wide. He also clutched to the silver charm that hung around his neck. Twist quickly checked to be sure that Kima's bracelet was also on her wrist, and that Mira's charm was still hanging around her neck on its string. Jonas's charm was tattooed onto his arm, and Twist's watch was still safely in his waistcoat pocket. He let out a breath. Apologies. He let out a breath of relief to see them all in place. It would indeed be safe for them to speak of fairies. The what now? Jonas asked. He fell asleep, Pumut shouted, pointing at Quay in horror. So what? Quay balked and startled. He has no charm, Pumut went on mournfully, clutching his head in his hands. His dreams are wide open. How could I be so stupid? I didn't even think of it. Pumut, calm down, Kima said gently. But I could have stopped this, he wailed in misery. Mate, calm down, Jonas said to Pumut more firmly than Kima had. What are you talking about? The summer fae, he said again, looking to Jonas with a face brimful of regret. They want you and Twist to die separately. The winter fae, my side, he added with a glance to his mother. They want you to die at the same moment so that Jack Frost might return to them unharmed. But the summer fae want him destroyed.
If one of you dies before the other, he'll never be able to recover from being torn in two.
Wow, Quay remarked. He is really not all right. Twist ignored Twist ignored Quay's comment while his mind flew through the boy's logic. Storm, the changeling satyr who had replaced Pumbut so many years, had tried to kill Twist and Jonas by shooting them at the same moment with a pair of pistols. That deranged satyr had claimed at the time that killing them would save his master, who Twist now knew to be the wicked Winter Fairy. The overly powerful sights that belonged to Twist and Jonas both came from the presence of one fairy's soul that had been torn in two. Although no one had mentioned summer fairies to him before, the fact that there were winter fairies did support the idea that there would be an opposing force. But wait a minute, Jonas said. Twist and I were both in the same room. We might have died at the same moment if I'd been asleep too.
The exact same moment?
Pummut asked skeptically.
Fire is unpredictable and chaotic. Even if you died an instant apart, the Summer Fae would get what they want. They'd finally be sure that my master.
He stopped suddenly, glancing to his mother.
I mean, they'd be sure that Jack Frost would finally be dead and gone forever. Besides, they used fire before.
Quay frowned. Why are you talking about fair? No, sorry. Why are you talking about fair?
No!
Pummut shrieked, covering his ears with both hands. What? Quay yelped, startled once again. Don't say that word, Jonas answered swiftly. Have we got any more charms? He asked the others. Kima was already digging into her bag. What word? Quay asked back. Fairy, Jonas said. Quay stared at him in startled disbelief. Kima handed Jonas a small silver coin like charm on a string from a bunch that she stuffed back into her bag. Thanks, Kima, Jonas said, taking it. He then held it out for Quay. Fairies are will, and they can snatch you out of thin air if they think you know where Twist or I are, unless you got one of these. This will make you invisible to them, but they can still hear your voice. Quay's eyes opened wide with alarm, flitting swiftly between Jonas and the charm. Can they now? He asked, very gently, not moving to take the charm. Jonas rubbed at his face with a hand. Just don't talk about fairies, all right? And keep this on you at all times, he added, offering the charm again. Quay's expression remained skeptical, but he reached out nonetheless and took the charm. He took a moment to look over his already abundant jewelry for a place for the charm. He eventually shrugged and slipped it on around his neck. Thank you, Jonas said warily. But Pamut, he went on, looking to the boy, how would the summer fairies even know where we are? I thought it was the winter fairies that found us in Atlantis.
I thought we could have.
Mm, wrong person. I thought we couldn't say the word, Quay muttered. You can't, Jonas said to him quickly. We can. We all have blood magic on our charms. The fairies can still hear you with that charm, but they can't see you now. Of course. How silly of me, Quay said without an ounce of belief. Pummut? Jonas asked again, forcing his attention back to the boy.
Well, Summer's looking for you too.
Pumbut answered.
They have all the same powers as Winter. And I'm sure after all that happened in Atlantis, they started paying a lot more attention at the same time as Winter did. They probably started the fire there too. And then here.
He added with a heavy sigh as he looked sorrowfully at Quay.
He fell asleep.
Quay glowered back at the boy. What the bloody hell does my falling asleep have to do with any of this?
They can travel through dreams and spy on people,
Pummut answered sadly.
Without a charm, they can find any number of secrets in a sleeping mind.
So, are his dreams safe now? Twist asked Pummut. Or do we need to add the blood spell to his charm? You too? Quay scoffed at Twist. Twist shot him a glare for being so consistently unhelpful.
Well,
Pummut muttered with a frown.
that simple charm might slow them down, but if they know his name or if they look at him hard enough, they'll still find him. The blood magic is the only thing that can be sure to protect him. Do any of you love him?
That is the weirdest damn conversation I've ever heard, Quay mentioned, and my head is pounding, he added, rubbing at it with a grimace. Twist took a modicum of satisfaction from the thought that the pirate's excessive drinking had finally caught up with him. After all Quay's snide and unhelpful comments, it was nice to think of his discomfort. In the meantime, no one had yet spoken up to declare any love for the pirate. The others eventually turned to Jonas curiously. He knew the pirate better than any of them and was currently going well out of his way to help him. Easily guessing at their silent question, Jonas shook his head. I owe him. That's different. So what now, Pumbut? Are we going to risk being burned alive every time we fall asleep, so long as he's with us?
Maybe not.
Pumbut said, deep in contemplation.
I know a spell that could boost the charm when he sleeps. It'll be safer for all of us as well. That might work for now. And it's easy to cast. I just didn't even think of it before. I'm so sorry.
He added miserably, his voice growing tight and his eyes beginning to dampen. It's not your fault, Kima said gently, reaching out to rub at his back. None of us even thought of protecting him last night. Pummel sniffed and blinked quickly, to hold his tears back, while Kima did her best to soothe his unwarranted guilt. Twist noticed, however, that the boy flinched when she touched him, as if expecting to be struck instead of comforted. Jonas shook his head in disbelief. He then put on an encouraging smile, looking at the boy but avoiding his eyes. She's right. You didn't do anything, Pumbut. Don't be so hard on yourself. Twist nodded while Mira smiled to the boy as well. Pumbut looked back to Jonas and then the others, as if amazed by their understanding and forgiveness. He nodded sheepishly, wiping at his damp face, and seemed to calm down. Kima shot Jonas a grateful look, which he very nearly looked directly at. Twist felt a subtle warmth in the buzzing at his neck, but Jonas made no obvious outward response. Taking another quick chapter break here. Mm. Oh my. Once again, thank you all for joining this reading stream. I hope that you are enjoying the story as well as the reading of the story. I also realized a couple things about voices tonight. Pumbut sounds like Storm. I meant to have Pumbut sound a little different from Storm, but right now I'm just defaulting to the Storm voice. Quay's voice has a new voice now. I'm going to blame alcohol for his new voice. And Mira is still the hardest voice to do in this entire series. Never have I come across a character where I just felt that I cannot do this voice to save my life, but we have a voice for her. It's pretty distinct. I just have to go with it. Everyone else's voices, though, I appreciate it. So, with that, we're going into our next chapter. The sky began to lighten into dull, dusty blues before the fire was finally snuffed out. Having taken stock of themselves and soothing what minor wounds still bother them. Apologies. You know what? I want to start this chapter over again. Give my eyes a little bit of a rest. Okay, let's start over. The sky began to lighten into dull, dusty blues before the fire was finally snuffed out. Having taken stock of themselves and soothing what minor wounds still bothered them, Twist and his friends could only count themselves lucky. But while no one was badly hurt, and they had acted quickly enough to rescue their luggage and all of their precious charms, they still found themselves feeling the effects of the fire. Along with the fatigue of the excitement and lack of sleep, they were all soot stained and smelled of smoke. Hmm. One moment. Throat got really dry. Along with the fatigue of the excitement and lack of sleep, they were all soot stained and smelled of smoke. Unsure of what to do next, they remained on the beach as some of the survivors began to move off. There is a pretty nice bath and wash house on the other side of the island, Jonas mentioned. Oh, yes, please, Quay said luxuriously, as if Jonas had just offered him a delicious cake. You're a clever boy, John. I always said so. Shall we be off? He added, moving the stand. Hold on, Twist protested. Do you mean one of those Turkish hot houses? Don't you think it's hot enough on this island? It's not just hot rooms, Jonas said, shaking his head. They have pools for swimming and lots of nice restorative baths, as well as a laundry service. If I remember, it's not very expensive either. How marvelous! Mira exclaimed. I'm not much for swimming, Twist muttered, crossing his arms. His few experiences with large bodies of water had always been relatively unpleasant. Not the least traumatic moment had been he'd fallen off of an airship and into the Caspian Sea, where he'd been enslaved by pirates. More than that, he heard that men and women bathed publicly in the nude in some of these establishments. What was the matter with a bowl of hot water and a sponge in the privacy of one's own rooms? Well, you smell like a cinder, Jonas said flatly, rising to stand. Twist shot him a pouting glare. How about you come along and decide if you want to join us or not once you see the place? Because I don't know about you, but I just love a nice hot bath myself. That sounds very nice, Kimo agreed as she, Mira, and Pamut all rose to their feet. Fine, I'll follow the rest of you, Twist grumbled, finally getting up as well. Mira took his arm as they began to walk into the town. Their path took them back to the now silent, blackened, and ruined inn. Twist was surprised to find that the inn still stood at all. The first floor was a gaping maw of blackened and ravaged wood, and there was a thick black stain of smoke above every window, but the structure still seemed to stand on its own. The surrounding buildings looked entirely unaffected as well. Twist could only guess that the firefighters had been numerous enough to be effective. The smell of the ruined wood was intense, even from across the street. Nonetheless, ladders had been propped up against the second story windows, and a few daring men had entered the upper floor. One of them, a handkerchief tied over his nose and mouth, emerged from a window and handed a soot stained bundle to a man who stood on the ladder. The man on the ladder dropped the bundle onto the ground, turning to accept the next. Some of the other survivors of the fire had returned to search for their abandoned treasures and now moved silently through the wreckage like blackened ghosts. Looking at the growing pile of salvaged items, Twist felt guilt began to prick at his heart. According to Pamut, the fire had been started because of Twist and Jonas. Whether it still stood or not, the inn was ruined. Every guest had been affected. Twist's guilt bloomed as he wondered if anyone had been unable to escape the flames. Even if it might not be directly their fault, Twist and Jonas could very well be the cause of the fire. As he and the others stood silent and still, watching the display before them as if entranced by the horror of it, Twist suddenly became aware of the fact that Jonas hadn't touched him yet. Whenever Twist began to feel overwhelmed with fear, pain, and confusion, Jonas would inevitably reach out to him and soothe the black feelings away. Twist had even grown used to doing the same in return. It was becoming a constant practice between them. The buzzing at Twist's neck pulsed with an echo of his own growing guilt. Looking to him, Twist saw a dull ash gray hue in Jonas's eyes. He seemed miles away, lost in grim and treacherous thoughts. All at once, Twist understood. Jonas had been here before. He survived a fire much like this one, but lost both of his parents in the process. A new feeling of fear for his friend rose like a flame in the darkness of Twist's own guilt and remorse. Twist silently took Jonas's hand, feeling the other man's black emotions flood into his sight with a cold, prickling, ominous fog. As the fog settled into the back of Twist's mind, Jonas looked to him, seeming to have woken from a trance. Having nothing to say to help his friend, Twist only left his gaze open to Jonas's sight. A blush of soft green spread into the gray in Jonas's eyes. Jonas looked away and took in a breath. Sorry, don't mind me. Kima glanced to Jonas curiously, as if surprised by Twist's sudden concern. Sharply self conscious under her scrutiny, Twist took his hand back from Jonas and turned to the inn again. The dense crowd that had filled the street during the fire had now dispersed, leaving nothing but survivors, salvagers, and occasional passerby in the eerie quiet and dusty morning light. Twist noticed a clean man, clearly not someone who'd been in the fire, approach the salvage items with conspicuously forced innocence. Clear off, you! A woman shouted suddenly, startling him. The man looked up to find the proprietor of the inn, her cotton dress now blackened and tattered, glaring at him in disgust. He muttered something under his breath about her overreacting, but wandered off nonetheless. The proprietor watched him leave and shook her head before looking back to the burnt out husk of her business.
Darling,
Mira asked softly, drawing Twist's attention.
do you think I ought to buy her a new inn?
Twist looked to Mira in surprise.
Buy her a new inn?
Quay, Kima, Puma also seemed confused by this idea as well, as Jonas smiled at Mira for it.
Well, I can, can't I?
Mira asked, gesturing to the enchanted purse that nestled in the folds of her sari.
I can buy anything with this purse. Right at an inn.
What? You got enough gold in that thing to buy a house? Quay scoffed, spying the little silk bag. Why, that little change pouch would starve a moth.
No, it's magic,
Kima explained. Ah, there's the nonsense again, Quay said wistfully. I was beginning to miss it. Kima frowned at him, but Jonas spoke up before she could retort. Indeed, Mira, why not buy the lady an inn? You should give it a try. I think it's a very considerate notion, my dear, Twist added to her. Mira shook her head bashfully, clearly quite pleased with this praise. When she and Twist approached the proprietor together, the others followed along. The woman stood silently, gazing at her ruined inn with a look of cold, stony regret. Mira had to speak up twice before the woman responded and looked to her. Yes, the woman asked, her voice hollow.
Could you tell me, please?
Mira began gently.
How much money would it cost you to buy a new inn?
Distaste washed over the woman's face at this question. More than I have, that's for sure. Behind Twist and Mira, Quaid chuckled. Jonas jabbed at his side with an elbow to silence him.
Yes, I assume so.
Mira pressed on, ignoring the men behind her. She took her hand from Twist's arm and held her little pink silk purse, which still appeared to be empty. Twist silently wondered if it would work at all in this situation. Didn't the bearer need to be in the middle of the purchase for it to fill with the sum?
But please tell me,
Mira continued.
How much would it cost for you to buy a new inn?
The woman rolled her eyes. I don't know. How about a diamond the size of a walnut? Mira looked suddenly to her purse and opened it up. She then drew out a large, clear, resplendent diamond about the size of a walnut. Mira looked at the gem in mild surprise while the woman's face fell into shock.
Is this one all right?
Mira asked, holding up the gem. If that's real, it must be worth plenty, the woman said with a nod.
Here,
Mira said, handing it out to her.
Take it.
Quaid gave a sudden sound of shock, watching this inexplicable exchange with a bewildered alarm. Jonas silenced him again, quietly holding him back from interfering. Noticing neither of them, the woman gasped, her hand flying to her throat and her eyes wide with amazement. You can't give me that, she protests. It's far too much.
You said it's enough to buy you a new inn,
Mira said with a shrug.
You just lost your business. I want you to take this and buy yourself a new one. Please, take it.
The woman gingerly extended her hand toward the gem, glancing to Twist as if for confirmation. Twist gave her an encouraging nod. Mira waited patiently for the woman to gently snatch up the gem from her palm. The woman turned the gleaming gem in her fingers, apparently mesmerized by its beauty.
I don't know what to say,
She nearly whispered, looking to Mira again in dismay.
I'm just glad I could help.
Mira said with a casual shrug.
I hope you find a very nice new inn and forget all about this nasty business.
She added with a glance back at the burnt out husk of the old inn.
Good day.
Mira said, turning to leave, casual as could be. The others moved with her, following close.
Thank you.
The woman called after her, prompting Mira to offer one last smile over her shoulder as she took Twist's arm again and walked with him back across the street.
That was very sweet of you, my love,
Twist said to Mira as they walked. Mira laughed quietly into her hand.
Oh, it didn't cost me a thing.
What the hell just happened? Quay demanded, stopping before Mira. What do you mean it didn't cost you a thing? A gem that size must be worth a fortune. Mira smiled, looked back at the pirate coldly, giving him no explanation. Mira's got a magic purse, Jonas offered in her stead, giving a listless shrug. Quay looked at the unassuming little purse with new wonder in his eyes.
Didn't I already say that?
Kimo grumbled, crossing her arms. Jonas grinned at her, but didn't comment. Can I take a look at it? Quay asked. Sure, show it to him, Jonas said casually. Quay didn't seem to think this comment at all strange, but the others all looked at Jonas swiftly in alarm. He grinned back at them as if they were all being absurd instead of him. It only works for Mira anyway, Jonas added. He looked at Quay again in explanation. It stays empty until she wants to buy something. Then, once she has a purchase to make, it fills with exactly what she needs and no more. Efficiency at its best. But, of course, it's magic and only works for her. It doesn't work for anyone else. Twist tried very hard to not show his approval of this clever deception. So long as Quay thought the purse might be useful to him, he would want it. But saying that it was useless to him was the best way to keep it safely in Mira's possession. Mira, Kima, and Pumbut also seemed to come to the same understanding, and no one spoke up to comment on Jonas's lie. Why does it only work for her? Quay asked suspiciously. Idris doesn't like me, Jonas said with a sour expression. Pumbut stared at Jonas in alarm but didn't say anything. Idris? Quay asked, seriously curious. You've seen him? Yeah, and he's still a bastard, Jonas grumbled. I asked him for something and he refuses. Mira asked him is, oh yes, of course, little princess, Jonas added with a theatrical and derisive impersonation of Idris. He made it only work for her just to spite me. Quaid chuckled. That sounds like him, he said with a nod. Where is he now, by the way? How's he getting on? I have no idea where he is now, Jonas said easily. Last I saw him, he was tripping around the world with a talking baboon. This information didn't seem to surprise Quay very much. Anyway, Jonas said, turning to the others, shall we be off? It's a bit of a walk to the other side of the island. Right, Twist said with purpose, giving him a nod. He made a mental note to congratulate Jonas on his brilliant deception when they were safely alone. We're going to take one more break for the evening. Mm. As always, everyone, thank you for the support that you're giving this stream. Whether you're here live in chat or live here on the stream itself, whether it's Twitch or YouTube, or you're listening to the VOD. And once again, I do support that. I do appreciate, I keep saying I support this, but I do appreciate all of the support that you give this channel, whether it is likes or follows, subscriptions, bits, the sharing of the word with other people who may want to listen to a guy read a book on a Saturday evening. Technically, you do support this channel. Well, yes, but the work I put into the channel in the stream, yes, that is a good portion of the reading stream, this channel, and what I'm doing here. But honestly, this channel will not be what it is if it was not the support for everyone else. Knowing that people enjoy the reading stream or enjoy any of the other things I do on this channel honestly makes it more worth it than talking to the void. And don't get me wrong, the void has interesting conversations, but sometimes you want to talk to corporeal beings as well. Doing one more stretch here. Again, I am looking forward to being off of my feet. I mentioned before that when I do the reading stream, typically I'm standing up for the entire time. Find it better for me to stand up, like to be upright, so that the voice actually doesn't feel as constricted. But we are preparing to go into our final chapter of the evening. Oh, what do you know? This is nice. Final chapter begins on page 69. Let us begin. But I don't really need a bath that badly, Twist grumbled as he and the others walked along a winding but clear path through the jungle. Above them, the tops of many of the trees met in a canopy, creating a soft and cooling shade, while the scents of tropical plants and the murmurs of distant living things wafted through the still cool air of morning. Mira, holding the crook of his arm while they walked, made no answer to Twist's comment, but Jonas gave a noisy sigh. Kima and Quay followed along as if disinterested, while Pumitt seemed lost in wonder, looking off into the jungle that was growing thicker around them in their winding dirt road. What are you, aquaphobic or something? Jonas asked. What's so bad about having a nice hot bath? I don't mind having a bath, Twist grumbled back at him. If you must know, it's the public indecency that I object to. Oh, Jonas smiled slyly. I keep forgetting that you're a stuffy little dandy with a prudish little British mindset. Mira looked at Jonas, aghast. Twist shot him a warning look. Did you just insult my entire race? And they deserve it too, Jonas said with a nod. Plenty of people in the rest of the world see nothing wrong with a little bit of good natured nakedness. Mira shook her head, clearly deciding to stay well out of the argument. Please, Twist said with a wince at the clarity of the image Jonas had forced into his head. I know you're a brigand and a scoundrel, but must you speak so plainly? That's what brigands and scoundrels do, Jonas countered smugly. We aren't all so repressed like you and your kind. Repressed? Twist scoffed. Why, you're downright vulgar. Twist chuckled. Yeah, I probably am. A warm blush of pleased guilt bloomed in the buzzing at Twist's neck, promising that no matter the barbs they slung at each other, Jonas was deeply enjoying the banter. He clearly meant no true offense and was only saying things for Twist to react to. Honestly, Twist grumbled, shaking his head. But I have a lot more fun, Jonas added, grinning from ear to ear. Just ask the harlots in town behind us. I knew it! Twist shouted, turning on him with an accusing finger. I knew your debt in Nassau was for something illicit. But harlots are legal here, Jonas pointed out. What's a harlot? Kima asked. Quay sniggered as Jonas's smile vanished, replaced swiftly with a pinkish hue on his cheeks. He glanced back at her sheepishly, as if he'd only just remembered her presence, and he hesitated to explain. Twist was surprised by this sudden coyness in Jonas, but in the heat of their banter, couldn't stop himself from capitalizing. Yes, Jonas, Twist pressed, grinning now. Tell the nice lady what a harlot is. Mira giggled but stopped herself, swatting at Twist's shoulder admonishingly as empathetic embarrassment bubbled over her gleeful emotions. Shut up, Dandy, Jonas snapped at him. Twist laughed. But what's the matter? I thought you were proud of your roguish nature. You're a bastard, Jonas growled at Twist. So are you, old chap, Twist said, as if lovingly, reaching out to pat Jonas on the shoulder as they continued to walk through the jungle. Jonas didn't retort, but Twist felt his prickly emotions smooth out nonetheless. Fine, Jonas said, sounding tired and bored now. I surrender. You win this time, Dandy. Lovely, Twist said, pleased with the success. You two are completely different to what I remember of you, Quay mentioned. How so? Jonas asked. Well, for one thing, the pirate began, Twist is speaking of frequently and not at all unsure of himself. I remember him as twitchy and insecure. See? Jonas said to Twist. I told you used to be all twitchy. I bloody well am not twitchy, Twist snapped. Not anymore, that's for sure, Jonas said with a proud smile and a nod. Oh, Jonas is just teasing, Mira said soothingly to Twist, patting gently at his back. You know he only does it because he likes you. Twist grumbled uselessly to himself, but tried to stifle his annoyance. She was, after all, quite right. Jonas made no move to correct Mira's assertion, and instead only chuckled to himself. What about Jonas? Kima asked Quay. How is he different than when you knew him? That's the most disturbing thing of all, Quay answered, his face a mask of deep concern. John is being, well, playful. What's wrong with that? Jonas snapped with a frown. The Jonas I remember would never allow a single offense to slip by without a fight. You nearly killed Vane once for saying exactly what Mira did about you, and there's not to mention any of the things Twist just got away with. Mira frowned, clearly seeing nothing murder-worthy in anything she said. Jonas shrugged. I'm sure Vane deserved it, and I never nearly killed him. You're exaggerating, Adair. You're the most violent man I ever met, and that's no exaggeration, Quay said, shaking his head. At least you used to be. Now you're talking gently to delusional children, chuckling at insults and taking on charity cases. Twist, finding that the buzz in his neck had gone quiet, glanced at Jonas. He had to admit, however, that the pirate did have something of a point. When Twist had first met Jonas, the man was swift to quarrel with anyone, even when there was little real need to do so. And those had been serious arguments rather than the enjoyable banter that had become common between Twist and Jonas. But even so, Twist could never have said that Jonas was truly an unreasonable person. He'd simply been trying to survive in the only way he felt he could. Thinking back, Jonas' more recent actions did seem a lot more amiable than they had been in those first few days of their friendship. Perhaps he was simply spending less time defending himself from others, and so acting more honestly now. Surely his entire character couldn't have changed so drastically while Twist had failed to notice. Are you complaining, Adair? Jonas asked back, his voice calm but warning. Are you going to hit me again if I say yes? Jonas stopped in his tracks and turned to look halfway over his shoulder at the pirate. The others stopped as well, all waiting on bated breath in this sudden, real tension. There was a long pause in which no one moved or spoke. Are we good? Jonas asked, finally. His tone struck Twist as both tired and flippant. Quay gave a terse huff and crossed his arms. Yeah. Jonas waited for a moment, as if giving the pirate a chance to say something more. When he didn't, and also remained on the path without turning to leave them, Jonas began walking forward once again. The others followed along with him. Well, Mira began, her voice breaking the tension in the air like the gentle ring of a bell. She reached out to take Jonas's arm as well, walking between him and Twist. Whether you've changed or not, I like you both just fine. Twist was happy to feel the honesty in her touch as she continued to hold the crook of his arm. Thank you, my dear. Jonas shook his head. One thing is for sure, Mira never changes at all. It's sunshine and puppies every day of the year with you, Poppet,
Thank you, Jonas.
she said with a wide smile. Jonas chuckled again. Quay gave a dreary sigh, but made no further complaints about his current companions. And with that, we're coming to the end of the reading stream. As always, everyone, thank you for joining this reading stream. I hope you enjoyed the story as well as the reading of this story. Assuming all goes well, we will have the reading stream again next Saturday, same time as every reading stream, really, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And again, I say this a lot during the reading stream because I feel like the reading stream is the only time I really say this as much as I do. Thank you for supporting this channel. And again, I do appreciate all of the support that this channel receives. And with that, I am off. I'm going to go sit down and probably find some food. And don't forget, tomorrow on the Discord is Community Day, where the plan is to play Among Us and Suicide Squad. And that's all for me tonight. Everyone, take care. Have a wonderful evening. And I will see you next time. Until then, take care and bye bye.